Okay, so this is the Module 5, Lesson 15 Fluency video, and we're going to go ahead and get started with our learning target, and that is to be able to find common units or number of units to compare two fractions. So basically we're going to be taking two fractions and looking at the denominator or numbers on the bottom, and we're going to be trying to make those the same unit and then compare the whole fractions, figure out which one's bigger or smaller or something like that. Alright, so let's get started with our fluency. So we are going to count by ones to 4 starting at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice and easy. Alright, and we are going to count by fourths to 4 fourths starting at 0 fourths. So here we go, 0 fourths, 1 fourth, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, 4 fourths. Alright, and then we need to figure out what is another name for 4 fourths. So if I wrote this out and I had, let's see, 0 fourths, 1 fourth, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, and 4 fourths, we can rename 4 fourths as what? 1 whole. Okay. Alright, so we're going to sort of not thinking about it like this. We're going to be thinking about it as 1. So, I'm going to cross that off. And then what's another name for 2 fourths? Well, 2 fourths, that's really just 1 half, right? So, if we had a shape that was like this, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I shaded in 2 fourths, that's half of the shape, right? That's 1 half. And so we can say 1 half instead of 2 fourths because they're equivalent fractions. So, but instead of saying 2 fourths this time, we're going to say 1 fourth. And then again, 0 fourths, that's just 0. That's just 0. So when we count this time, instead of saying 0 fourths, 2 fourths, and 4 fourths, we're going to instead say the other numbers that represent that same exact thing. So here we go. 0, 1 fourth, 1 half, 3 fourths, and 1. And that's it. Alright, and now we are going to find equivalent fractions. So we're going to start over here with 1 half, and so we need to figure out what we need to multiply with 1 half to get 2 in the numerator, or the top number. So 1 times what equals 2? Well, 2, right? And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So if we multiply by 2 on the top, then we have to multiply by 2 on the bottom. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So now 1 half is an equivalent fraction to 2 fourths. So now we'll keep moving on, and we have 1 half. What do we have to multiply with our 2 in the denominator here to get 8 in our denominator over here? Well, 2 times what? 4 equals 8. So, what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So, 1 times 4 will give us 4. So, 1 half is equivalent to 4 eighths. Mean the same thing. Alright, so now we're going to move on to 1/3. So, we have 1/3, and we're going to multiply our 3 in the denominator by some number to get to 6. So 3 times what equals 6? 2. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So 1 times 2 equals 2. So 1/3 is equal to 2 6. Now we have 1/3 again. What do we have to multiply 3 with to get to 9 in our denominator? 3. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So 1 times 3 equals 3. And now we have 1 fourth. Well, 1/3 is equal to 3 ninths. 1 fourth, we have to multiply 4 by something to get to 16. So what do we multiply with 4 to get to 16? 4. So 4 times 4 equals 16, and what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So 1 times 4 equals 4 sixteenths. So 1 fourth is equal to 4 sixteenths. Alright, now we have 1/5. So, we have to multiply 5 by something to get to 15. So what do we have to multiply with 5 to get to 15? Well, 3. So 5 times 3 equals 15. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So 1 times 3 equals 3. So 1/5 is equivalent or equal to 3/15. All right, and now we're going to be comparing fractions. So what we're going to do here is we are going to change the denominators so that they have the same exact denominator. So then we can compare and see which fraction is bigger. All right, so here we can easily look at 2 and know we can get to 4. So 2 times what equals 4? 2, right? So that would give us 4 in the denominator. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So if we multiply by 2 on the bottom, we got to multiply by 2 on the top. And 2 times 1 equals 2. So we have 3/4 and 2/4. Which is bigger? Well, 3/4, right? So the alligator is going to chomp, 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 chomp. Right? Yeah, this is my really bad alligator. Okay. So our alligator is going to eat oh my goodness, guys. I'm just trying to draw an eye. Okay, alligator's going to eat the 3/4. So which one is greater, 1/2 or 3/4? Well, 3/4 is bigger. All right, so now we're going to do this one. We have 1/4 and 3/8. Well, what are we going to multiply 4 with to get to 8? 2, right? So 4 times 2, and what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we have 4 times 2, which equals 8. We know we have 8 over here and 3 here on that one, right? And then 2 times 1 equals 2. So which one is bigger? 3/8. All right, and so up here, we're just going to go ahead and confirm that and put that up there. All right, so now we have 1/3 and 2/9. So we're going to go from thirds to ninths. So what do we have to multiply that 3 by to get to 9? 3. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we end up with 9, and then 3 times 1 gives us 3. And we have 2 over 9. So now, which one is bigger? 3/9, right? Well, that's 1/3. 1/3 is bigger than 2/9. So now we're going to do the same thing here. What do we have to multiply 2 with to get to 8? Well, 2 times 4 will give us 8. So I'm going to put 4. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So 4 times 2 is going to give us 8. And then 4 times 1 is going to give us 4. And then we have 3/8. So which one is bigger? 4/8. So I can go ahead and do this. Now this one is going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to do it. We're going to talk through it, but I'm not going to write out like I have been. So what would we have to do to get the 3 in this denominator to 6 in that denominator? So we'd have to multiply by what? 2. So what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So this 3 becomes a 6, and then we have to do 1 times 2. So what's 1 times 2? 2. So is 5, 6 greater than, less than, or equal to 2, 6? It's greater than, right? So we're going to draw the equal or the greater sign there. Now I'm going to let you pause here, and I want you to pull out a piece of paper or a pencil, and I want you to figure this one out. And then you're going to be able to choose from greater than, less than, or equal to. And you need to select the correct answer and then proceed. All right, so let's take a look real quick. What do we have to multiply 4 by to get to 12? We have to multiply 4 by 3, and what we do to one side, we must do the other, so that 4 becomes 12. And then 3 times 1 equals 3. So which is bigger, 5/12 or 1/4? 5/12, right? So you can see there that 5/12 is greater than 1/4. All right, that's it for the fluency, so you may proceed on to the application video. All right, see you in a second.